Oh, it's
No, just the portion where the runway is.
Just what's underneath the blacktop. Just the
So then
land.
what are you intending on doing if,
To keep the runway,
I get that,
some
I get that.
mechanism of the runway.
I get that, but
maintained.
so, say the lease is terminated, then what do you wanna do with that?
Either renew the lease, or somebody's gonna end up with that
Well,
runway, and it's
first of
probably
all-
the county.
First of all, the,
Right. Right.
yeah,
So then what do? We lease the runway to the private party around the,
If it's ours, we do whatever we want.
we already own it, we leased
I
it,
get
we
that,
leased
but
it to the
let's think
Army.
ahead a little bit. Let's think ahead a little bit. So, obviously, you're gonna have to let the new buyers know that you're intending on keeping a chunk of the runway, only the runway? Make it very clear to me. Sorry.
What I said is the portion of the lease, because I think that probably
It's
extends,
2,000 feet of cement.
and probably wider than the actual concrete.
Okay, there's not a lot of room there, but anyway.
My point is that if we deed this to the end of the runway to the private party, then in 50 years, we've still got a runway here, and now the county owns the first 8,000 feet, and then somebody else owns the next 2,000 feet. I don't think that's a good situation.
And if we reserve it, then when it all reverts back, it all reverts back.
Yeah, I mean, I understand in theory what you're saying, you just have to work it out, so it's, you know.
I mean, you sell all the ground around it, you just retain, it's kinda like the street out here in front of us. Okay, it'd be like the city coming up here on Nevada Street and saying, that portion of Nevada Street that's in front of Dr. Beams's office, we're going to sell it to Dr. Beams.
Right.
And, I mean, it's not that he's gonna go out there and close off the street, but if he gets ticked off at the occupants of 707 Nevada, and he doesn't like the interaction there, hey, I own it, so I'm closing it off. And that's what you wanna preclude, and it's not like, from the curb to the curb, outside of the curb is private property, but the street itself is owned by the public at large. And I think that's what you want to make sure and retain the 2,000 feet of that access that was, the Army basically leased from us to be able to build.
Right, how many years
extend
is that, 50 years?
I believe it is.
And this terminates when?
It might be
2055.
No one said I had to do
reread
math.
that lease, because it can never, ever, ever be a public airport, ever,
Right, right.
ever.
Right.
But
No,
I think the
get
point
that.
is,
Okay, why are you talking about selling the airport to a private party? It can never be,
The land around it, Eileen, the land around
okay,
it.
the airfield can never be a
The land
private.
around it, the land around it is what I'm speaking of.
But you need to emphasize that it can
Okay.
never be a private airport.
Okay,
Reread
so
the
anyhow,
lease.
where, you,
We have a motion on the floor, and that's not
Like 20 minutes.
I think, no, Paul seconded. I did.
I never heard that. You seconded it. Okay.
The, and then we were trying to, Richard suggested the motion include
The
the
area.
verbiage about the, and that's where we've been.
Okay, I didn't hear the second, I'll second. You had to do that, didn't you? Well, I personally think that I like the more of the option A5 with the extension of that.
Well, we're still talking about the other motion.
I know, I'm just doing the discussion.
Okay, let me just let Paul and Richard finish there.
All right. No, I get what,
Okay. So do you want to amend your motion?
Yeah, I'll amend that motion.
Are you second?
We're keeping the 2,000 feet of the lease runway.
Okay, so what Richard had said was,
We'll reserve the
portion of the
area
leased,
that's currently leased to them.
okay, say that again.
We'll reserve for the county the area of the property that is currently the subject of the lease.
Okay. So
And that's part of the motion.
we have a motion and a second, and now under discussion. Supervisor Elmo on this.
Yeah, I would just as soon go back to the, because as Eileen said, you know, this airport can never be sold. I mean, it would be nice if there was another option for that, if somebody else wanted to come in and use the airport, because everybody's got to come through the county for the use of it anyway, and the county's got to be the negotiator of the airport. We need to have something so that if somebody else wants to come and use the airport, whether it's one business, two businesses, three businesses, because this, our economy and everything is just going global, and everything is getting wheels and wings underneath all the time. And we need to have something so that other people or businesses can have access to use this airport to further benefit our economy. And if we sell all the surrounding land except for a little easement, I think we're defeating our purpose. And so, I mean, I think the county needs to keep that upper, right portion much similar to A5, or better yet, to do what Jim said, was to keep that bottom portion and go on down to the bottom end of the runway and just go straight up that north end. Straight up the rules of the north.
Keep the sliver.
Keep the sliver, and then get rid of the red to the left of the road. But include the sliver, and then come straight down so that we're encompassing all of the
Extension.
runway.
Yeah. That's an idea, I hadn't thought about that
Are you
part.
gonna restrict access if you do that? No. You're just gonna let anybody just.
Well,
go in there
you know,
and-
the strategic location of this in relationship with that Tesla guy building there in Story County, if he can't deal with either Reno International or with the Stead Air Base, I could see the old runways there, I could see that guy shipping his stuff coming right out the top end and come right there through the cut and come into Lassen County. And you wanna know something, that might be his portal for shipping out,
Keep our fingers crossed.
but the
Maybe
thing
they'll
is,
fly them out in electric airplanes.
That's a done deal, you guys, that's not gonna happen,
But-
that's a done deal.
no, but I'm saying is, no, you
Not
keep
gonna
his
happen.
plant where he's at, but in terms of, he was interested in, because there was Interstate 80 and US 15, he was looking at railroad and stuff, but this may
See,
be the
but-
airstrip the guy's looking for.
You know, and who knows if down the road, if whoever buys this runway property can't work a deal with them on the railroad.
Well, I'm just saying is, the guy who buys the orange is somebody who decides just to sit on it and tie it up and not do anything for the next 25 years, and you've got a guy like that sitting there, through that red coming in, we could at least give that person access to the runway and not have to be totally yoked to one person, controlling everything else.
And the guy in orange, he can fence off his property, just whether he wants to do a barbed wire fence or a chain link fence or electric fence, whatever he wants to do. I mean, you can, there's security measures all, you can put up a little orange ribbon like the.
I mean,
It's
the
not fencing like the lady over in Westwood.
thing that, the thing
Fell
that,
for it.
the irony in this whole thing is like, the county's owned this for a long, long time. And now,
And we're fighting over
an
this.
idea comes to give the opportunity for something to happen with it, there's just like, everybody's full of weird
One thing
ideas.
I'd like to ask, Mr. Chairman, I think we're talking about giving direction for the RFP, is if it's possible that when the RFP is put out, is as an addendum, so that the people getting the RFP, at pages 11 and 12 of this document, and this, I was looking for this one here, it took me a while to find it, but this is really the more graphic, it shows you, this map here shows the contaminated area, and this shows you the extent of the contamination.
Is that the one I gave you?
No, you didn't give this to me. I got this out
Out
of.
of the book.
You
Yeah,
pull,
I got it out of the book too, and that's the one I gave you.
It's very simple.
well, yeah, I mean, you can pull one page out of all this and say, yeah, this is it. This is in context with the whole thing here, but this document, but I like to see these 2 pages and this map be included so that it becomes very clear to anybody who's putting in any sort of bid that they could go to these documents. But this here, I think, really shows clearly the level of work. And on the timeline that was at the 150th, there was an item that was there, 2004, on the timeline. Tim Purdy he was the one that came up with a copy for it. And it talked about the 8.6 million Honey Lake Folly, and everybody was really kind of tuned into what the 8.6 million Honey Lake Folly was. And that was where the federal government paid the state with the transfer,
right.
where they transferred all the money, because this is dealing with the people here, but back in the 30s, long before Sierra Army Depot ever come along, this is like in the 20s and early mid-30s, this was kind of like a bombing range that they brought up. It came out of some base down south, and they used this actively. So all along this whole area here, and that's when they found the wandering skippers and things like that, and became Bob's new friend. And but they transferred the property to the State Lands Commission in terms of responsibility. But there was $8.6 million in federal funds that went to the state, and working with the local conservation groups to go in and do all the cleanup. So that was something that made the 150-year timeline bend, $8.6 million Honey Lake Follow, which kind of paralleled all the stuff that was going on with Sierra Army Depot. Just for what it's worth, history doesn't matter.
Okay. Is there any, want to quickly, if there's any more public comment before we take action on the motion? I mean,
Another thing that I personally have no doubt that all of you are aware of I-11 and the route. I've talked with the Arizona Department of Transportation, Nevada DOT,
Say that again.
Arizona Department
Oh,
of
but about Route 11?
Route 11.
What's Route 11?
I-11 is either going to go through to the east of this area, or it's going to go up through Reno up into Idaho. Right now, the favored route is just to the east of this property. And in the feasibility studies, there's a phase in there that talks about putting an extension or a off-ramp to Herlong, off-ramp. So I-11 is a few years away. It's in the feasibility phase now, the study.
Where is this being called? I've never heard of this.
Good.
What's
I-11 is going from Mexico, from Arizona, all the way up to Canada. And when it gets to Reno, it's definitely going to Reno.
Well, who's putting this out?
This is all federal. This is a federal highway,
Federal
Federal
Highway?
Interstate 11. And the recommended, the talk now, the recommended is to come through Reno, up through Herlong, up to Oregon, up to the Canadian border. So that may be in the backs of your minds with the urgency to sell this property. I don't know, because if somebody's going to buy it and sit for 5-6 years before I-11 comes through there, it's extremely valuable property.
Well, if that's the case, why are we selling I-11 if we got an off-ramp?
And they call them extensions, but they're off-ramps.
Going in and out, they're going to be rich.
okay.
Point of clarification.
Probably
on the
something
motion.
should worth pursuing at the Transportation Commission, because I don't think those guys know yet about this either.
The concept of I-11, I think, was born out of the NAFTA agreement,
Oh.
and the concept is to go from Mexico to Canada. I think the focus is from New Mexico,
Well, if that's the case,
Arizona,
why is it now all of a sudden everybody's becoming aware of it? I've never
up till Las
It was
Vegas.
passed in 2012, the Surface Transportation Act in 2012.
There's various studies that are ongoing.
You know, the Winnemucca to the Seal, Jack Seymour's
And one of
pursuing that.
the potential routes would go north through Idaho, one would come through northeastern California. I think they're very, very
Maybe
far
we're
off.
rushing things, we should wait and
It's
see what
10 to 15 years away.
We might be
Build it.
transporting through transporters before it's built.
That'd be wonderful to see that. That'd be great.
Yeah, they've already completed in Arizona and Nevada widening bridges. The one in, at the Hoover Dam was just completed, the Pat Tillman Bridge was just completed in anticipation of the 6-lane, because it's going to be 6-lane I-5 all the way to Canada. So Arizona and Nevada are already redoing their bridges and widening certain parts that aren't going to be funded by the
I
federal
know they're
government.
going from Vegas down towards, they blacked off, and they made that thing like a big wide freeway. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's just,
You know,
I happened to drive down that way about a month after they completed the section down to like Bullhead City or that area.
yeah.
I mean, it was like, yeah, you kind of wonder where,
That's all part of federal.
is that all part of that?
I-11, yeah.
Okay, no, that's kind of good to know. Have to look into that.
All righty.
But I-11, if you look at the initials, Mr. Chairman, that's like L, I-L-L.
Be careful, because there's an I-11 on the east coast too, when you Google it.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna bring it back for action. That's a motion and a second on the floor. We're gonna take the vote.
All right, point of order, clarification on access, if any.
Act on whether
What-
we're going
what-
to.
What you suggested, Richard?
Just this side of it.
Yes,
This will be.
the runway itself, yeah.
so can you state the motion again so we know what we're voting on?
It's more so many times, it's,
I can try to paraphrase it. The motion is to sell it all as one parcel, except for maintaining the portion of the property that is the subject of the lease, along with this finger that goes along here and the northern,
No, I didn't- that's
do the
not
finger
right.
that goes
No.
along here,
That's
doesn't-
no?
No. So,
All he was keeping was the 30-foot road, 30-foot
Okay.
Amity Airfield Road and underneath
One more
the
time.
airstrip, I think.
Oh, and underneath the, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. So it'd
A5.
be exhibit 2,
Okay, exhibit A2.
A2, minus the portion of the property that is encumbered by the lease with the Army.
There you
Does it-
But
does it-
included access through
Is
the
it-
Amity Airfield Road,
So the 30-foot Amity
Include
Airfield would not
access?
be,
through the
go. You
Amity
want to make
Airfield.
it a 60-foot easement or a 80-foot easement?
well, the surveyor said it was 30-foot is all that easement is, so that, to me, I think.
We can
30
make it
feet
whatever
is-
we want,
Yeah.
because we own it.
Make the easement more.
Well, you're the one making the motion, not me,
Okay,
so.
with a
I'm gonna put that piece
Under-
40-foot, 50-foot easement.
Bigger.
Yeah, bigger
And
easement.
60 or 80 or 80.
60-foot easement, yeah, that's fine.
Which
Do I
number?
hear 100?
Which number?
A2, exhibit A2.
As recommended by the county
60
surveyor.
foot or 80 foot or?
Oh, okay, 60-foot.
Okay,
So you're gonna convert the 30-foot existing easement to a 60-foot easement and use that as the footprint plus what's under the airstrip,
Right.
the 2,000 feet. Is it, the motion, does it also including those exhibits that I asked about those 3 pages
Oh,
out of it?
Yeah, we could make that.
I mean, I think having that included, at least make sure that the people know that.
Know what's
that's-
there.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
They,
absolutely.
they can look at this here and trying to
is
find
that part of the motion?
information, but I think that's
It's,
very
it's
important.
it's in the draft, and I think we'll refer, at least by reference, to the CD that.
Well, you can do by reference, I think it would be easier, I mean, it's only 3 pages out of this whole volume, but I think having those attached as an addendum so that they'll understand the importance of going and finding the CD.
I mean, you want, why don't you attach one as an exhibit?
No. I doubt it.
When we come back next
You know, I might have been willing to support something that would have included a modified version of A5 over there where we kept that northeast corner, but outside of that, I can't support it. And now that I know about this, there's an I-11 thing, maybe I wanna hold out and we can get an in and out burner on it, so.
It's a private
All right,
company.
so is the motion clarified?
I have a question, because there's so many up here. This is the one, your motion? This one is your motion?
Let me get
Yes.
Take them all down?
all the time.
Hey, this costs $3.
How much is staff time, that's just paper.
You got rid.
There you go.
All righty, so.
You want to restate it one more time?
Yeah, I guess it's stated, but then we're adding 3 pages that come from somewhere. Is that part
That's
of the motion?
Richard, are you making the motion, or is he?
No, I'm just trying to
He's
paraphrase
clarifying it.
what
Yeah.
the documents that Supervisor Chapman and I deal with the contamination of this parcel.
Yeah.
And there is a map included.
There's page 11 and page 12 of the A2004 It's these, I got pink tabs on it, and it's
The ones I
called the Remedial Action Plan in May of 2004. It's page 11 and 12, and then on, it's the Army Airfield Marketing Feasibility Study, existing airfield facility, and this is drawing figure 2-2, has the
Could
scheme.
you provide that to the clerk?
Can I
Just
just
send
ask
those
pictures
to her.
or something, or can I make a copy?
I gave that to you
I'll make you a
last
copy and
meeting.
give
That would be cool.
Okay.
It's
It's in
12,
the
the breakdown of the
Right,
cost.
has the cost, page
Okay.
12, because the map doesn't mean much without that. too.
Yeah, that's what I gave you, Jim, last meeting.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, what you gave me made no sense because it was out of context. It makes sense being in context, so I'm glad we're at least on,
No,
we
thank
are on
you.
the same page.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you know what the motion is now, Madam
Don't let the
Clerk?
restrictions.
Mostly,
Mostly or all?
yeah.
You know what it is?
He's going to give you
He's
the
gonna
copy, so I
provide
have
you
those
the-
titles.
All right, very good.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Supervisor Chapman,
No,
Supervisor Alba,
No.
Supervisor Kyle,
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond,
Aye.
Supervisor Watson.
I just want to say before no,
Yes or no?
you know the time for talking is over with.
no. I like option 7. Twist of option 3. No, seriously. I really wanted to, and I did entertain, this last meeting when Jim talked about a little section. And I wanted to be able to.
I think it's a point
No,
of order.
I want to clarify my book here. And I really wanted it to be something that we could all five agree on. But I must say, when I saw all this, and now there are 6 different versions with.
Well, that wasn't
different
us,
twists.
that wasn't me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just want to put an end to this madness, so, I vote yes.
Well, I can appreciate that.
I wish I
But-
could-
But,
we
but I
could've
want
all
the
voted.
record, I wish I could have voted yes too, and I would have been inclined to vote yes if we could have, not the big piece that was on A5, but scale back down that northeast corner, plus leaving the runway.
It's done.
I know, but I was gonna say, is I just want to clearly state that I would have been willing to vote yes on that, but I can't support
The
the.
irony of this is we just voted exactly the same thing we voted on like 4 months ago.
Yeah. And we're basically in the same spot.
Exactly.
Well, that
All
helps.
through the left.
You're gonna vote on it about 3 more times before it's over. You'll have plenty of opportunity to see the light and correct your errors, so.
Now I'm the district leader.
Mr. Chairman, we'll return with a resolution that articulates all this.
And we can debate that for another 4 hours too.
I was gonna put it on the consent calendar.
So you have quite a lot of stuff in this correspondence. I-1.
I have an item under H8 too.
Oh, information for the board, under H8.
Yeah, I was gonna take up this course. Yeah, in case there's any public comment on any of this. Okay, California Department of Fish and Game, is there any public comment? I-2.
Mr. Chair, I have just a comment, or I'm not sure, but I was looking at this I-2, and this was a kind of in conjunction with the earlier item we had that dealt with the Ash Creek one and the other one that was before. But it talks about, this is the document, the detail, you have your cover part of it, and obviously it didn't require a vote like the other one's supposed to do, and if it's good for one, it should be good for the other, so that's why I didn't support that other motion. But I was really intrigued when we have what the flow is and what the computed cost is, and I'm gonna, let's see, where's the block file, and this is on page SUS-8, and it shows Kyle, Robert F. and Vicky A. And he has 8.790 is his flow, and the computed cost
1,500 or something?
is 2982, and it shows what the unrounded is and what the rounded is. So what they did is they did a matter of rounding. But when you start looking at all the other numbers on the page, and it's consistent throughout the document, and I don't know who created this or what sort of a computer model they came up with, but I think they need to get it fixed because, so you have some of them, my understanding is when something is less than 50%, that it goes down, you round it down, and if it's something over 50%, it gets rounded up. So you've got some of these here where it was, okay, so you have Kenneth and Sheila McCullough had an unrounded amount of $85.14, but they got rounded up to $86. So they went from 14 cents, which under math would go down instead of up. And then you go to another one where, here's one that's $418. This is Chris and Nancy Miller, $418.52. And they got rounded down to $418 rather than getting rounded up to $419. And then here's one that's got $85.14. Another one, a lot of those that were like $85.14, that's a standard amount. They got rounded up, so they get rounded up 96 cents or 84 cents, but if you're less than 30 cents, you get rounded down if you're over. And I mean, you go through this whole document, and there's just so many inconsistencies. Now, maybe it's only just cents and a few cents there and a few cents there, but I got to tell you, we don't want to let these people be in charge of taking care of our numbers, because a few billion here and a few billion there, and pretty soon you have some change. And that's what I see from this. So I think this document, it's pretty pathetic. That's just a commentary, and I think, under comment for I. So.
Alrighty, is there any other comment on I-2? If not, we'll
It's
move
a
on
good
to
thing we didn't have to vote on it.
I-3 is, we have something from the Lassen County Natural Resource Coordination Council. You want to give this one?
Sure, the Coordination Council has requested that the Board of Supervisors adopt a policy and further expressed in a letter format encouraging the Lassen National Forest to carry out fuel reduction projects to protect the aesthetic, economic, and watershed values of the greater Diamond Mountain area, the face of Diamond Mountain. That correspondence came in. I plan to bring back an item for the board, or at least a letter, unless I get direction otherwise, that would do that.
Is that Bob Pyle's signature for Dean Ground? It says RF Pyle.
Well, wouldn't that resolution we passed earlier today, Richard, wouldn't that kind of do the same thing?
It's similar, but this is very specific to the face of Diamond
This
Mountain.
is Diamond Mountain.
Right. We've talked about this.
I think we should do it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. No question.
The second issue is very similar, and the essence of it is that when federal agencies do their environmental process, part of that process is supposed to be that they include in their analysis the socioeconomic factors that a project will have in their NEPA. It's the position of many that they typically don't weigh that portion of their analysis very heavily, if at all, so this would encourage them to do that.
Okay, so,
And same thing, I'll bring that back in there.
alright, I-4, this is,
That's what we're just talking about.
Yeah.
that's I-5 from the timber product manufacturing.
So before you move on to those, back up to I-4. So they're wanting to have the Center for Economic Development at Chico State do this. I gotta tell you, those people are not good at all.
That's what I was wondering.
They're the ones that put out that economic report for the county, like we get through Nortec, and it's a thing, and the stuff they produce there is like total garbage. I mean, in terms of statistical information, I'm being polite. In fact, we even, remember, because they even took like our our census information, I mean, it was, they're kind of a byproduct that they generated that got Blockbuster to locate here, thinking they had like 27,000 people to rent movies to, and found out that half of them were locked up in the prisons because of the way they take the data and garble it all up. And, you know, I mean, if they would take time, and they're like the brain